Well, this situation is escalating very quickly. It's not just Trump. Apparently, it seems like a bunch of people who attended that big party in the Rose Garden celebrating the nomination of Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court have all come down with the Wu flu. We've got Lee Tom Tillis, Kellyanne Conway, apparently the chairman of Notre Dame, and gosh, who was the last one? Oh, that's right, it was Melania. Well, I don't know. I mean, obviously we don't have too many details yet about the president's condition in particular, but, well, I'll get to that. Thom Tillis and Mike Lee are particularly problematic when it comes to getting this Supreme Court nomination through. We were told by McConnell that it's going, they're going to vote before the election. This woman is going to be confirmed. It's going to happen. But, if he can only vote on the Senate floor to confirm this woman after the Judicial Committee of the Senate approves her. They have, she has to get through committee just like any bill. And that's, I believe, is normally where the confirmation hearings would take place. It would be in front of the Judiciary Committee. But with Mike Lee and Thom Tillis both down with the Wu flu, they obviously cannot show up in person to vote, to confirm this woman, in committee. And the Senate rules don't let people do that sort of thing remotely. I mean, I believe that was why it was such a big deal when John McCain was in the hospital with brain cancer, and he decided to come in and vote to save Obamacare. If John McCain had stayed in the hospital, I believe Obamacare would have been repealed in some form, in some limited form, and McCain didn't like Trump, so he came in to make sure that didn't happen. And the reason why he had to do that is because he could not vote from his hospital bed if he was receiving chemo or whatever they were doing, kind of treatment for his very bad brain cancer. So I don't know. I mean, if anybody's going to be able to do this, it's Mitch McConnell. If there's a way to get this done, he will get it done. But I don't see how this happens at this point. How do you confirm a Supreme Court justice on top of that, of just needing their votes to get through committee, they need their votes to confirm her once it makes it to the Senate floor. So, without Thom Tillis and Mike Lee, and now apparently Ben Sasse, who's also on the Judiciary Committee, he's quarantining back in Nebraska, although he tested negative for the virus, but he was present at the event. It seems like the whole thing, not just the Trump campaign, but the whole confirmation hearing for Amy Coney Barrett, the whole Supreme Court nomination process, it's dead in the water, which seems disastrous. Not enough people really seem to be recognizing that today. Most people are understandably talking about Trump and his condition, but Trump had a good chance of losing anyway. So, to me, the big story here is that his what is potentially, his last major move as president, trying to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg, something that Republicans have wanted to do since the day that she was, first confirmed to the Supreme Court. That's a huge story. Now, how many other people were at this event, and haven't been tested yet? I'm thinking of Barrett herself. What if the Supreme Court nominee comes down with the virus? Is the Senate going to confirm her? We are very much in uncharted waters, to say the least. But again, something else to consider is that whole promised stimulus bill, the Pelosi put, as Wall Street calls it, the hope, the optimism that there will be some kind of bailout for Wall Street. And, in the form of, fiscal stimulus, i.e. just sending everyone checks. You send those checks out to people, they will take that money and they'll buy stocks. This is apparently what Wall Street is thinking. And then America will be saved. How's that going to happen when you've got, all these senators in the, not in the hospital yet, but quarantined, unable to do their job? when, McConnell is clearly just going to try and scramble to get the Supreme Court nomination through. Why would he waste, one day of the Senate's time in session on, the Pelosi put? Why is anybody going to try and negotiate it? I mean, heck, how are they going to? Well, I guess they could get Trump to sign it from the hospital. That, he apparently is still able to work from Walter Reed. But there certainly won't be any in-person negotiations going on, especially if the president's condition deteriorates and he is not really presentable. If he's sick in bed, he's not going to meet with anybody, nor is anybody going to want to get near him. He's not going to be on, in front of any cameras unless he's, all suited up and, wearing makeup and has his hair done up right. Now, with all that said, I guess it's time that I actually try to broach the topic of Trump's condition. And the fact of the matter is, I cannot know for sure. None of us know right now, how he's doing. We can speculate, we can, cite anonymous sources, but we don't know for sure. Conservative media and their sources, which I would imagine conservative media knows plenty of people inside the White House, they're saying, oh yeah, Trump's fine, this is abundance of caution, blah, blah, blah. He's taken all these treatments. He's taking not only some experimental antibody cocktail, but he's also taking remdesivir. This is all just trying to get, the idea is you want to throw all this medication at him so that he gets better as fast as possible. It's not necessarily because his condition is so grave. That's what we're hearing from the right. Well, you're sort of, I hesitate to say left-leaning. I would say Democrat-oriented, not necessarily ideologically left, but pro-Democrat Party media, your CNNs, your NBCs, and your CBSs and ABCs of the world, they are reporting essentially, from their anonymous sources, which they have plenty of them too, keep in mind. The media has anonymous sources in the White House because there's a lot of people who work in the White House who have never liked Trump. And their sources, and they're saying this very confidently, are saying that Trump, his condition is deteriorating, and the decision was made that he should go to the hospital now while he is still feeling well enough to walk on his own, rather than have to be, taken there when he's sick and can't move. And, what we're hearing is that, he's got a cough and shortness of breath, which to me seems kind of concerning. That it would happen this quick because, it would seem he was, asymptomatic yesterday. He wasn't, wasn't diagnosed, or I should say 2 days ago. He wasn't diagnosed until, after midnight on Friday. And yet by that afternoon, he's already going to the hospital because, he's got shortness of breath. I followed this virus very closely for quite some time, so maybe the research has changed since I was following the details of how the virus affects people. But, shortness of breath is not something that should be coming up that quick. That is, unless you receive, a bit of a heavy viral load, meaning that, there's no kind of mask or cloth or anything to, mediate between the virus particles and you just, inhaled. You got a lot of the virus in you to begin with, and so it began, multiplying much quicker. And so with a heavy viral load, you are going to get sick and, have worse symptoms much quicker. And it's also much harder for your body to fight off because your body doesn't, is trying to play catch up. The virus is already has a substantial presence inside your body, just as, your immune system is starting to make antibodies for it. And so considering that Trump, if he really does have a shortness of breath as of yesterday, it would seem as though, he might be, on deck to have a rough bout of this thing. And if that's the case, we're not just talking a simple 2-week quarantine and then he gets out because he's better. It could go on much longer than that, because, the guy is 74. He does seem very healthy, certainly compared to Joe Biden. Trump does not come across as someone who's frail at all, but, he's still an old man. And no, not all old people have a really rough time with this virus. There have been plenty of asymptomatic elderly people, who have gotten this virus. But all I'm saying is that as of what we were hearing last night, things are not looking great. So I think that there's a decent possibility that Trump is in the hospital on election night. And, what does that do? Some people are saying, oh, that'll get him a sympathy vote. People will feel bad. Look, Reagan's approval rating went up 11% after he was shot. Well, the fact of the matter is that we were a very different country back in the mid-'80s than we are today. In 1984, Reagan won 49 states. You can't do that in a polarized country. It just wouldn't happen. People's opinions don't move that much. And so if Reagan saw an 11% boost in approval rating after he was shot because people were sympathetic, you're not going to see anywhere near that for Trump, because people are generally not going to be sympathetic to Trump. The people who are sympathetic to Trump already support him, and the people who don't support him are not going to have much sympathy for him. I believe it was the LA Times put out a thing that said, hey, people rallied around Reagan after he got shot, but Reagan hadn't spent months dismissing the threat of assassins, which is, a very not so subtle way of subtweeting Trump and saying, hey, you got what you deserve. You said this virus wasn't a big deal, and now it's going to kill you. And, a lot of people gave them crap, but I don't think that that is such an unpopular opinion on the mainstream left. People who don't like Trump generally have utter contempt for him, and people who do like Trump generally, love him. Now, maybe, I don't know, you could say that there are some marginal Trump supporters who might be energized to go vote for him because they're sympathetic, but I feel like, so much of Trump's strength is his physical strength. It's his presence in the room that, it might just hurt him if people see him weak. I really have not made a determination one way or the other whether this helps or harms him, and it may just be a wash, frankly. But either way, we need, it's the last month of the campaign. It's not unreasonable to think he could still be there on Election Day, so I think we need to start preparing for that possibility. But I don't know what else to say at this point. I'm going to have to do a lot more thinking about this, and gosh, there's so much other news I wish I could talk about, but it's impossible for me to ignore this. So if you gained anything of value out of this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and sharing this video. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe, because I do upload every day, and I'd hate to have you miss one. So I'll see you folks back here tomorrow.